Good evening. All righty, welcome to round two of the comic book cover and spread project. So right now I've been hard at work getting my final line ready and getting some of my flat color done on the cover, and now going through and getting my final line work ready for the flat color within the spread as well. So I realized that the first two videos that I created for you guys did not get any audio, but I can see that my audio is recording this time, so we are good to go. Let me fill you back in on everything that I talked about within the previous session. So, especially after seeing how some of these are coming along for you guys. While looking through these and looking at the prep work that you guys are going through and doing, I noticed that a lot of you guys aren't really spending too much time on the environments of the scenes. Some of y'all have got really good poses. A few folks went through and got really good, whatchamacallit, um, character expressions going on. That's something that I really want to stress to you. If it's not something that you're very strong with, look up references for good character expressions. I think, so many times while we are sketching when we're younger, we don't tend to really think about the pose or the expression on the character. However, with these illustrations, these narrative illustrations that we're creating, these comic book spreads, the character's facial expression becomes so important for what it is that we are doing. So really make sure that the expressions on the characters' faces are easy to be able to read. We don't want to have to second guess or kind of just assume with characters' blank faces what it is that they're feeling or thinking. We want to really be able to take one quick glance and see what the heck is going on here through their face. Because when we look at drawings, right, when we look at these illustrations, the first thing that our eyes are going to go to is going to be the character's face. We're going to look to the character's face to get some idea because we're human, and that's where we read all those micro expressions that you're going to immediately. So even though you might spend the most time on your drawing on the background or the cityscape, when someone looks at your artwork, the first thing that they're going to see is the character's expression. So you really want to spend some good time on that. If you're having trouble with character expressions, then I highly recommend, guess what, that you get some illustrated references. Do not try and create these character expressions from looking at photographs. Photographs are cool, but they're a good starting point. But the way that the artist goes through and simplifies all that information on a character's face down into the line work, the thickness of the lines, how they're handling the teeth, how they're doing the noses on a character, right? What kind of lines and shapes they're using to be able to trick our viewer's eye into looking at the noses as being a nose without having to fully render the nose. With just a couple pieces of line, you can get that idea, right? Think about how anime characters always, it's so easy to be able to tell, even though their noses sometimes are just one little line or something like that. Thank you for some Farrah Fawcett here. Totally a 70s shag. Let's push it behind the ear on this one. And I hope this is helpful for you guys. I'm going through and just very quickly doing this final line work. While I'm working on this, you can see that I've got my underlying sketch. I've got a lot of information in my sketch that's underneath here. I've gone through, I've got the wrinkles in the shirt that are going to be important to me that I want to highlight and put in there. But there's some more wrinkles that we can always go in and include. And I'm making changes to that initial line work. This is not my final drawing by any means, but it is giving me the framework and the outline that I need to be able to get to my final line. I feel like a lot of you guys aren't really planning enough when it comes to the characters' backgrounds for the information that you're going to need. And, when you're pressed for time, if you don't do this stuff right from the get-go or at the beginning of your project, then as you move forward, and you're just trying to get all the coloring done, you might not think, oh gosh, yeah, I need to include that one little thing within here. You forget stuff. You're probably not going to want to go back and add too many details as we move forward. Oops, give her a little look. As we move forward through the process of finalizing these drawings. All right, so that looks pretty good. She looks good and scared. We've got the other eye over here that I don't want to forget about. So I figured there needed to be one more frame at the back of this. Indication of a collarbone there. All right, so that's one of our girls from the other girl from the cover. And when it comes to the layout and the spread, looking through a lot of yours, you've got a few central ideas that are going on. A lot of y'all are going with one bigger drawing. But I want to make sure that you were thinking about the composition flow when we're going through and creating these. How is the viewer going to read this piece? And is it reading sequentially in the way that you want them to? So for this one, most readers are going to start in the top left-hand side. That's pretty standard here in the Americas. And then as we move down, right, we've got this frame that's overlaying it. So it's sort of graphically pulling our eye down. We can see that she's starting to cry. I want the eclipse to be in her eyes, within her sight right here. And then as we move down, we see her starting to float. We see one of the girls that's just starting to react and be like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? The other girl is just barely starting to notice it. And before you know it, she is up in the air. Time has passed. The girls have been able to stand up and they're going, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on with her? This next shot, there's a good reason for why I'm doing this. So what I want to show is that at first it's just sort of the eclipse that's going on here. But as we move forward, the light from this explosion is really starting to it's getting closer and closer, and she can see it coming. So all of a sudden it's just going to be a really, really bright frame here, whereas this one is much darker, right? And so this girl is going to be starting to get really lit as well. And then our last frame is going to be the brightest one on the page with the big explosion here. So the flow of this is from the top left down, just like we're reading a page. You can see it on the darker gray here. Then we're going to start over on the top left again. We're seeing that the explosion is getting faster. It's actually really close to her. This is the first time that we're connecting the two things on the second page. And then all of a sudden, we get another close-up mirroring the first page. This girl, this is a lot of room here to be able to add some thought and speech bubbles for what the heck is going on and sort of some narration. I've also got plenty of room to be able to add narration over here and within this section. And then finally, we end it with the big splash and the big explosion that's going on there. So please think about the flow of your pages and how you are creating narratives and drawings that allow you to be able to show off the character's expression, how you can show off their reactions, how you're using their poses, their hand gestures, their eye positions, their eyebrows to really be able to tell the best story that you can. So switching over to the cover here for a moment, I think that overall, I saw a lot of good cover options, but I want to let you guys know that it's very important that while using the covers, we think about what kind of story and how we are informing our audience about the characters that are there, right? Who are they? Where are they? What time of day? Where is this taking place? How does that add some relevance to our overall drawings and the illustrations that we're looking at? Within the top left-hand side, you've probably noticed that I've got this little bright and happy anime picnic going on. And that is actually what I'm using for my color scheme on both of my pages. The reason why I picked this one is because I really like the way that they're handling the lights and the darks on the picnic blanket. So I know that I'm going to have those circular shadows from the leaves or from the tree that's just above them within the shot. And this one has got a really good shadow shift. I also like the way that the grass is turning the super bright yellow and the whole scene is just so much more saturated where they're not in the shade. So it's got a really good kind of hue shift here. And I think that the depth of the color is going to be really nice as well as I start to go back and put in these park samples. One of the other things that I'd like to be able to do with this shot, just to be able to give it a better sense of space throughout, is to give some kind of cityscape. So to give the idea that they're just on the outskirts of a major city. So I'd like to add a cityscape within this section, just to be able to give a little bit more interest and a little bit more complexity to the scenes that I have. So they're not just in a park anywhere, but rather we're actually getting maybe some iconic buildings in there to inform the audience of where they are at. So right now, I am going to, let's go back over her just a little bit more. So for this one, you're not required to do your drawings this way, but I am adding a deeper outline around the outside of my characters just to make them pop just a little bit more. I want to do this so that with all these lighting effects that I'm going to have and changes in lighting, that's very important as the explosion and the comet gets closer to the characters, that we can really see the line work. And this is a good process to be able to have, you know, a thicker line just on the outside of the characters. All right, so that's working pretty good. Yeah, that hair is looking much better now. And we just want to do the same thing over here on this shoulder, just to give her a little bit more outline and a little bit more weight within the frame. Let's do it here on the bottom. Right. Cool. Looking and feeling good. There we go. Now it's got a little bit more heft there. So yeah, there's some things that I'm not coloring in with the black line. I think that maybe that's a good one for you guys to consider and think about here. I don't even have to really, if the cityscape is that far off, I don't have to do that within line. I can just do it, you know, with without the lines and just do a shade on it in the background. But yeah, for this Earth and the planet and the the meteor or whatever, the beam that's coming down there, I don't want that to be too lined out, because I want that to be super bright and to sort of stand out that way. Hope that makes sense. So what am I? Some things in light, some things in not. Let's use the same rules that we used on the other one, just over here. So it's got a bit of an outline, but not too much. There we go, because we want to have a good glow going on with it. Then I'll paint the Earth it's heading towards with all the cloud cover and all that good stuff here in just a bit. But I think I'm in a good spot now to be able to go in and start lining out this character. In the previous video, what I was talking about was, we'll do it on this one. Going through and really building up your character with an underline first. So what I mean by underline is I've got an underlying structure that I'm using for all of my characters. I'm going to draw this out real quick. This is what I was talking about, this sort of heart shape. This distance and this distance should be equal to one another, so they are the same amount of space. When you're doing a character that's flat to the camera, same thing for here, goes down the other ways, and we've got the equal lines that are happening. The next thing that I like to figure out, I always start with my circle right there at the very beginning of the character. This gives me where my nose position is going to be, and then I can start building down my neck and my jawline and all that good stuff as it starts to come down off of them. The next thing that's really important to me whenever I'm doing figure drawing is figuring out the rib cage on the character. So I'm thinking of the rib as kind of like a box style shape. I've got a center line going through there. That's going to be my spine. And the next thing after that is going to be my character's waist, the underwear. If the shoulders are going down this way, then the body is going to offset so that we've got the other hip, the hips, the lower portion of the body is going to be going in the opposite direction. This helps you create a more dynamic drawing and a more dynamic pose on your character. Just some quick little tips here for how to think through that. And yeah, I think I'm in a pretty good spot. I've got her face good and memorized now at this point, but I can always go back and check out my drawing. So she's got the high cheekbones, pretty sharp angular jaw, and pretty standard chin that's going on with her. Let's get the nasal passages. up. Here's going to be the tip, nose. So I could probably use some more pixel depth on this picture now that I'm looking at it. Let's get the teeth going back in the mouth. There's the lower teeth. We got the lips that are going to show up. And that is a pretty good mouth shape. We've got the chin that's going to appear and then go back. Here's our cheekbones on this character. We got a jaw. That's going to go around and over like this. I never really like drawing characters back in this sort of position. Try to avoid it as much as possible, but for this one, it doesn't really seem that we have too much of a choice. Wing game. Eyes looking up. There we go. So that's okay. There's still some improvements that we can do within our jawline. We want her to be wearing a hoodie, so that's what I'm just sort of sketching out really fast. I'm working pretty tight on this character right now, so I may want to drop back just a little bit now that I've got the eyes done. And let's not forget about her kind of gothic haircut that she has going on. So those cheekbones are awfully sharp there. Maybe we need to lower those and soften them just a little bit. There we go. That's better. Let's get the other one. Make it a little stronger. So, this is one of my least favorite poses to do on a character. We are drawing this confidently enough. I think it's going to work. So we're going to shrink the head back because she's got her head leaned back quite a bit. Doing the hair. And we've established with the other one what the length of her hair is, sort of a medium length. Get about these lines on the top of the hair. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. She's looking very witchy, like gravity no longer really applies to her. And that's what I want. Who's got a small necklace on, a dangly necklace. And a much lower necklace. So it feels like her chest region might be a little bit wide, the span on it. We'll adjust that here in just a bit. Some of that hair going over the forearms or over the arms. Working pretty well. And we had the line art project previously within this course. Yeah, I'm sort of changing some things up here and there. They're just going to work a little bit better for me. So I'm trying to draw on a curve and create my tapered lines as much as possible here. All right. you guys are enjoying this final project and feel like you're making something really cool. You know, the eclipse is a week behind us, but I still like the idea I came up with for this one. Only I've been working on this a little bit sooner. And I've got her shirt, which has got some wrinkles in it. There we go. It's looking good. Yeah, her body is offset. And we want his hips going down, belly button, edge. I think I decided within this other frame that she's got a rip or a hole in her jean. Let's not forget about that on this leg. Got my where my leg is going to be marked off. So here's the hips, upper leg, wrinkle, calf muscle. Sometimes on the blue jeans, going through and figure out where the pockets are can be a great measuring tool for you. Here's the back leg. Give some indication of where the knee is at, and moving on down. There we go. So that's all working pretty well for me. The back of the coat. I'm going to make that just a little bit more dynamic and interesting. There it is. Cool. Zoom out here. Looking pretty strong so far. We're going to do that same double outline portion to this. Can't remember what. Some sticks together. Good for this. Not the X-Men symbol. We got other sticks on the inside of it. All right. So let's go in here and work that other arm. Again, I'm thinking about the wrinkles within her jacket, where those are going to appear and how gravity is going to kind of take over. And you'll notice the way that I'm drawing, I'm using my brackets to be able to shrink and lower brush size while I'm doing this, going through and trying to lock in that those outer shapes. Alrighty, here we go. Now that I like where my line's at, just going through and doing another outline just to be able to finalize it. It's just one stylistic option. You can focus on the inside of her body as well. There we go. Let's get that thick outline going on around the top of her hair. And I think that's going to really finalize this portion of her. Right. So for the fingers, you can see what my under sketch looks like. And I've got my measurements for the fingers that I always end up using. Sometimes this is one of those things when you've done enough of these, you start to sort of draw the same like 5 or 6 hands every single time. And I think that's the hands in particular are one of those areas of like artistic laziness where it's always good every couple of years to go back and do new hand studies just to be able to continue to add it to your visual library of how it is that you draw human hands. I mean, once you learn the proportions of them and sort of the simplified shapes that are involved in building out a human hand, you can do it from just about any angle you can imagine. So let's go ahead and switch it up here. All right, there we go. It's feeling pretty good. I think we got some good room or some good shapes that we're creating within her jacket, sort of breaking the arm just a little bit there visually. And let's go in and let's commit to that line, the thicker line structure here on the outside of the character's arm. Same thing around the character's leg. See how quick I'm pulling these lines. And I think this is one of the big things, right? That I want you guys to understand from watching these videos is, this stuff, it becomes, when you do it enough times, pretty automatic, right? So I'm pretty able to talk while I'm doing this stuff. And I've got a system for the way that I'm approaching all of these things. And once you get that system into place, it's just about going from step A to Z. So I've got my initial sketch. Within that initial sketch, I've got a lot of information that I'm trying to give myself so that I don't have to make too many decisions at this stage as I start to develop it further. Right. So my feet are underdeveloped within this sketch. So I'm really sort of filling in the clock on these, and they probably could be a bit stronger. All right, let's get some more. There we go. So that's all feeling pretty good for me. Those feet are not the most beautiful feet in the entire world, but with all the leaf work that I'm gonna do around them, I think no one's really gonna notice me. Unless you're Rob Liefeld. Okay, so last things that I need to fix or modify here. When it comes to the character's arm over on the left-hand side, that arm is entirely too long. So transform, and we're going to just use the distort tool, and we're going to bring that arm in quite a bit. Oops, it's getting considerably smaller there. There we go. Edit, transform, warp. I still like the bendiness that's going on within the arm. It was just a little bit too long there. I think that is working better for us. Yeah, so still making modifications and changes along the way. The next thing on this drawing that I've got to do is I've got some background stuff. I've got that all on one layer. And maybe this will be helpful for you as well, just to be able to see how I go through and approach leaf forms and filling in foliage and all that good stuff. So I've still got a lot of painting to do with this piece. I'm by no means done with all that. There's going to be a lot of color that I'm going to go in and lay, and the color and the shadows are really going to be doing a big number on this thing. But for the leaves on the trees, just kind of going through and doing these little leafy sort of forms and shapes. I don't want to do too many of them, but I do want to add some visual noise into this area so that we get the idea that we're looking at the top of a tree. So then it matches up with the rhythm and the visual noise that I've created over on the left-hand side. So I'm not really doing every single leaf or branch by any means. That would be a nightmare. I am going to add just a few of them, and the branches and the trees end up working as like little leaves, or sorry, little trees themselves. So they've got beginnings and ends, taper points. They're usually surrounded by leaves down at the bottom like this. There we go. So by giving it just a few more, now it doesn't look like she's, looks like we've got our big tree over on the side. So that becomes a nice visual metaphor throughout this piece. Next thing that I want to do within this, let's go to the previous layer. Whoop. Make that moon good and circular. We're going to give it just a little bit of shape, even though I'm going to shadow this thing out an awful lot. Same thing for this. I don't want to overdo it with the shading or the shadows that are going on with it, but I still need just a little bit there. Okay, so now we've got our tree line over on the left-hand side. That's almost in the exact same position as the other tree line, which I don't really want this to happen now that I'm looking at the way that they're all kind of congruent with one another. That's going to be a little bit confusing for the viewer. So what I'm talking about is the trees here and the trees on this side. The tree line is exactly the same. So I need to do something to be able to change that. I think that I can make that decision. Friends on their own layer. Sorry, trying to figure out which, oh yeah. I do have some of my frames are on, or some of my sketches are on another layer, just in case later on I want to move the two eye frames around it all and have a little bit of spacing and movement with those. But yeah, the line drawing is starting to work good here. The first one that I want to go in and do when I start coloring this evening, I think is, which one would be the most helpful for you guys? Probably, I want to do the earth one just to show you what it kind of looks like when we're working with the line and then the shadows as well with it. I think that's going to be the most useful one. So we really need much better drawings. These gals down here, they are not that strong right now, but got girls on the first layer. So the close-up is going to be of her. Thumb is down. I always end up checking myself and actually having to put my my thumb up in the air, or my hand up in the air, just to make sure that I'm getting all my positioning right. Uh-oh. Sure that you save regularly as we approach the end here. Murphy's Law is always in full effect at this time of the year. Yeah, so real lightly drawing the forms and the shapes. Let's get past the other one. What the heck kind of shoes she has on? Let's say some flip flops. Good line. There we go. Some indication of the character's knee. And now she's staring off to the side. So the next girl that we need to do over here, let's say it's the one with the band on her hand. Yeah, she's on the other side, so it needs to be the girl with the tied up waist. Start with that. Have her hair swooping across as if she's sort of stepping quickly to the other girl. Forgot on this one, I want some of the hair going down behind her. I think one of those lines is a little bit too thick. Overdid it. Tendril. Now I like that little tendril sticking off there. Okay, so yeah, so now we just got some back hair going on with her. Those girls are starting to look good down there. I like it. Even for a small pose, it works. You guys, give me just 1 second. All righty. So next up, let's go in her. So in even a very small drawing, you can get really good poses out of your characters. And a little bit more of an outline, a little bit more of a shape. Some of this stuff was feeling pretty thin here. Not the most interesting body pose on the other girl, but that's okay. Reach out here. And she's just a little bit too far away now. So our sketch was. And drawing on the wrong layer. Don't you hate when that happens? Okay. There we are. And same problems there. She's not touching the other girl. There we go. And same thing for her. Just want to complete some of those lines just so that it's a little bit stronger looking, especially around the legs, since I don't really like the leg position too much on this character. I could probably push her leg to another position and it would look stronger. That's okay. I want her sort of leaning back, looking up at the other girl. That work. And now for the third one here. Get some good line weight going right under that arm. Just a little bit so that they read better when we see them from afar. Without that, they're going to disappear pretty fast. And I love it that with those three standing there, we get a good sense of the distance that this girl has managed to move up. So the character feels like, you know, she's the most distinctive one out of the three with her hairstyle, the hoodie on. She's got a different look to her. So I like that she stands out on. Stands out on the page and she's easy to recognize. Okay, so the last gal has got the quarter length outfit on. There we go. Sorry for getting a little quiet here. Still here with you. So her torso is starting to move quite a bit off of where this was before. That's okay. Make sure that she feels centered, like we're seeing an overhead shot. That'll work well. Good. Give her some shorts. I don't think we really see that. Nope, she's the one with the big belt. Okay. And we're definitely going bell bottoms on her. All right. It's gonna work for them. Last thing I want to do on this picnic basket, or the picnic table where they're standing, is I need to give some indication of the same things that I drew on the cover. Otherwise, this is not going to work all that well. Let me give an idea of where they came from. else do we have here? Wait, tarot cards. Their other little witchy device. All right, so that's just going to help me much better line in the sky for where those things are at. So I like their positioning that close to her. Honestly, I could probably take all two of these girls. We have the final line. And let's move them just a little bit up and over within this section. And what I'm going to end up doing, because I want just a little bit more negative space around them so that they stand out more, like they've moved further away from the picnic table. That orange color at remember the reference image, the picnic blanket is orange, like the orange and the green for the cover with the yellow for the lighting. I think that'll look really nice. It's going to be the only orange thing in this, so that should stand out pretty well. And the positioning is just a little bit better, so they're not crammed right on the edge of the page. If we were to get this thing printed and put it in comic book format, and helps to frame them just a little bit better. So the next thing here is the tree line within the background. You notice that I'm using one of the tricks from our line art project where I'm going through, there's first sketch. And let me start off with the picnic bench. So I described that picnic bench as being over there. It is an important thing in my initial sketch to give me a sense of place within the scene. There we go. Just sketching it out really fast here. And now I want to, this is on a new layer that I'm working on. I want to move that tree line down quite a bit more and make it more severe or closer for the characters to encounter. See how this goes. So there's going to be one of the trees. When you're doing trees, here's me doing the base groundwork for this tree. It's not the most interesting looking tree in the world. It's just a background element, but I want to make sure that I am giving myself. There's going to be the sidewalk for this shot. So make sure that you are giving yourself, a couple branches. You don't have to do too many branches when you're doing background trees, but at least give them some kind of interest and something for them to be able to connect to. And you'll notice that I'm always connecting them to the ground as well, and then breaking up the silhouette so that it's just not a one-off sort of repeat of itself every single time. Really helps these tree forms come to life quite a bit. So my trees right now are all on the same layer as that could work, is pushing it up even higher because I do have all this space up at the top. But then it still kind of fills a gap. Oh, it's weird. Okay, or we could just keep it going at the same distance away. I guess the camera's kind of in the same spot. It's a tricky call. All right, I think it's going to be confusing. We'll keep moving forward with it. Let's see how it feels. Her hand isn't touching the trees now. All right, so giving just a little bit of detail just to be able to give an idea for what trees are in the foreground and what trees are further away. It's not going to work because we need more of a top on it. Trunks. Too close together. Just going to let that trail off into blue down on the other side. Really don't want to have to trace this thing a second time. All these trees, a lot of tree drilling into the background. You know, more time. I had more time, right? If we had more time, what I think I would do next is maybe add like a playground into the shot, or some other park features, a gazebo, bathroom area, something like that, just to be able to continue to break up the space and give it a little bit of interest. But we're going to do this cityscape in here for how much time we have at the end. No park or no playground. Gosh, one of those like real old school, like 1980s metal, like jungle gym things. I think would go really, really good within this space to be able to fill it out, but it's not the most important thing, so we're not going to worry about it too much. Next up, I want to go through, and I've still got all this grass right around here. These gals are hanging out in a grassy area, but we still need to have some kind of other terrain that's going on within the background. So the grass is cool, but we need some bald spots. We need some other little things that are going on just to fill and give some texture to the space. If you don't do that, it's going to look pretty empty. It's going to make our shots look a heck of a lot better. Okay, so let's see here. I think I've got my my line work pretty much done on this one. Let's turn off all those. Wow. And that one. Oops. Layer these on. Hope I'm not drawing on the. There it goes. Okay, cool. So there's my line art for the second frame. I'll add the text boxes in at the very end here, but I think that that's working fairly nicely. For the next video that I'm going to do this evening, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start doing my spot color again. I want to render out this earth, get the maybe just this left-hand scene. If I can get some of this started and blocked in, I think we'll be in a pretty good spot. I would like to render some of these characters for you guys to show you what it's going to look like with the lighting once we actually get that going. But yeah, we are rocking and rolling on this. So now, open this up. I've got my cover and my spread that are going to start to work together pretty well. She's going to be a lot brighter when she gets into the light. These are all the dark shadow colors for these characters, so they're all going to. What's going to go on top of them is going to be their highlights next, and this is all just base flat color. I've got some more choices to make for the characters' clothing options as I continue to work my way through those, but yeah, I think that the spread is working pretty good. I like that these trees here in the foreground are a little bit thicker of a line. She's got a nice thick line, and then all this stuff becomes a lot thinner within the background to show the distance. And I'm really excited to do the explosion at the very end here. But yeah, I think we're at a good spot to continue forward. Let me just do one more thing here to help you guys understand what's going on. So drop you back up here. Once I've got my, really it would be best if I went through and if I went through and guess I did not put these guys on their own layer. Nope. So at some point I merged it down and lost that. So I guess those frames are going to stay where they're at. It's not a good way to work when your editor comes back and certainly wants you to move those. Those will look like this. And then where is my highlight color for this gal? Gosh, she is like almost white in this reference image. We got to have some other color before we get there. Is that white? Yeah, it's pretty much white. I don't want to go that bright. Golly, this is the brightest. I can darken this a little bit. That's still really, really bright on this character. I don't want that. All right, so we're just making some choices and picking what the highlight color is going to be on her. So again, that's her highlight color with the we can still add white and we can still brighten this up a lot, but those two are going to be the color schemes for her. And now we've got this line art that I put in here. Way I'd like to start on this is doing the sky first and then working my way forward is always the way that I like to work when I'm building in my layers. But just to remind myself visually, keeping the sketch just to make sure if there's anything else like this, where this little dot was at, that's going to be important or relevant to me for later on. Let's see how quickly we can do this with this rendering style that I've got. Okay. Not working well at all. Okay. So this is not entirely the way that I recommend that you shade these things. Usually if you can use the lasso tool, it's always going to be a lot faster. But sometimes in your drawings, you've got pieces that have got some open line. The line doesn't need to be fully closed each and every time. So this is my quick shade method for blocking in a lot of tight flat color. And you're trying not, this is after being a concept artist at an animation studio in China. And the work rate over there is really, really fast. They had you trucking all the time. And with all these pieces of concept art that we had to develop and get done very, very quickly, we had to come up with a really fast method to be able to block and get the 3-color shading on each one of these pieces of concept art that we were developing. So from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, select, modify, expand, 3. Oops. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And so that ends up being a lot faster to be able to render these characters out than than just about any other way that I can think of. So here she is with her shading on. I'll leave these two, all her skin on the same layer, just so that I remember that's what I'm shading and working with, where my highlights are at. Sometimes when you're working with some of these drawings that have got a lot of complexity to them, it's almost impossible to find where the open line is at. So like where the hole is in the lines that you're trying to fill. And so you end up spending more time trying to find those little open line sections that aren't entirely closed than if you had just gone through and outlined it like this. So you kind of take away the guesswork. It doesn't feel like it's going to be faster at first, but it ends up being that way. If you know, sometimes it can really slow you down. But I've been doing this for years now, and I've gotten pretty quick with it. I'm just drawing these little lassos around your drawing. Don't have to be as accurate with this stuff, but it does help you get in the nooks and crannies that you know when you expand your selection isn't quite going to get to. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to miss some of that over there. Select, modify, expand. And oops, this under here too. Cool. So quick cleanup on some of these gaps and holes. I tried it once and I didn't quite get the entire thing filled in. Then I'll do that. But I'm trying to avoid hard coloring this stuff as much as possible. I want to quickly fill the holes. All right, we got oops. I think we got a lot of belly going on with this gal right here that I don't want to forget about. I think her torso was probably longer than it should be. And let's not forget about her cool ripped jeans and her knees showing. So you can do this, I guess, two different ways when it comes to your flat color. We can go through and we can do all the same color or all the groupings. All the green is on one layer, all the skin colors are on one layer. You can do it by character. There's a lot of different options for how you can approach this. So for this gal, that's her lighter color. I think we're using one of this girl over here. So they've got a gradient going through these characters. They get a lot brighter as we move on up. So let's see what we can do with her. She looks a little bit like Mary Jane Watson. Just go ahead and keep all the skin tones on the same layer. Same deal. I'm just going to quickly outline this stuff because I know that I can work over the top of it. I'm using my brackets to be able to change the size of my brush as I do these wider open areas, and the smoother lines instead of using a thin little line that I can't really see. Oh yeah, so I'm mixing her hand, and that should do it for her. Oh my gosh, where's the hole? Oh, okay, I see it. There's the hole. All right. Cool. Select, modify, expand. So we've made her a brighter color than she was on the, this is still my medium tone for these gals. And yeah, we got some neat stuff to be able to create. I think another cool thing within this piece, maybe not so much that one. It's a pretty pure blue sky here. You still have the gradient running through it, but go in and let's start filling in the blue sky. Yeah. Okay. Oops. And here we go. Cool. This is the start of the line. Oh gosh, not black. Fill in the blue. That is way too bright right now on this character. We've got a solar eclipse that's going on. So we need to darken up our blue somehow. Let's see if we can't get from this piece a darker blue. We've got a nice teal here that's not quite as saturated. These colors, that one, I can tell you right now, just looking at it, it is way too saturated for what it is that we are creating here. This is going to be one of the few times that I use the soft brush. I really don't like how saturated that is. So I'm going to use the sponge tool. Sponge tool is going to bring me closer to gray. And I'm really kind of graying out that entire background. Sponge tool takes away saturation. We're still going to have some atmospheric perspective that's going to occur. This doesn't have to be quite as intense as what we're seeing. There we go. So that's feeling more solar eclipsey now to me. The sky, right? Oh, this is like a full solar eclipse at this moment. So we want the sky like really, really dark. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's go in with the burn tool. Like it. So now we're starting to get a well-considered gradient going around this gal. And then we've got the moon, but we've got some more choices. But for now, that's a good sort of starting background here. I've got the graphs that I need to go in and do as well. So let's go in and we've got our super bright colors over here for stuff that's actually in the light. And the more I look at this, like that is really, really saturated. All this stuff is. That is so close to white and bright. If you're always working in color palettes like this, you're gonna burn people's eyes out very, very quickly. This is too much saturation by far. So I'm trying to pick some stuff that's a little bit more gray here. So this is just me again blocking in my shapes on my first pass. Just doing a simple trace because I know I've got holes over on the edge where the tree line is at. I didn't want to trace this thing a second time. But I feel like it's so tiny and thin that if I did the lasso trick, it's not going to fill it in all the way. to be as quick with this, trying to be as quick with this as I possibly can be. Here we go. Get these guys as well. We've got some other shades we're going to put into the back here. Select, modify, expand. Cool. Here's my base color for the trees based on the colors from my other shot. And yeah, this thing is just going to continue to rock and roll and start to come together. But I need to do the space one first. Get this. I've got a good idea of what the sky is going to look like now. Each one of these is really kind of choices that I'm making that's going to influence the rest of the work that I'm doing here. So I would really rather start off and finish this one completely and then go back and start rendering this instead of doing the two of them together. But yeah, let's take a break. I'm going to do this earth one here. Then I can probably paint this off screen and show you the layer breakdown for how I create it. And then yeah, I'll try and get some more of this color blocking going on with these gals as well so that we can finally get to the shading on this. But one last thing before I stop this video. If you're using gradients like this, please, please, please do not overuse them. This will end up looking really, really cheesy if this is all you do with your background. I mentioned previously that I'm going to have a cityscape in here that's going to cover up even more of this gradient. But, you know, you have to be really intentional with using the gradients. A lot of people think, oh, I'll just spray something in there and then that's going to be it. Be careful with them. they are deceptively simple for anyone to be able to use. So, all right, let me pause this one.